Here is how to correctly solo DPS with Wolfsbane Exotic Axe. We're in the shooting hall, reset my timer. Assuming you got Nano Assault, watch the DPS trick. So this is how it would go. I've slowed down the footage on purpose to see what's going on. Slam, heavy attack, right? Then you're going to do 2 light swings, you get your heavy attack back. Do it again, that's number 2. Then 2 light swings, and then heavy attack again. Now if you're good enough, you can do 4 heavy attacks before Nano Assault ends. Watch this. Then you swap immediate before 0 second ends. Swap back to the exotic axe. Boom. Half Nano Assault energy back. Now you could either do 4 heavy attacks in that 9 second rotation or 3. Probably play it safe and do 3 because sometimes if you're too slow on the 4 heavy attacks, you won't get the Nano Assault trick. You rinse and repeat this so that you get half of your Nano Assault energy when you swap back to the axe. That will increase your damage massively. You'll burn through more ammo, but there are no boss fights really in the game where you need like infinite sword ammo. It just doesn't work that way in the game. This is how you correctly solo DPS with the Wolfsbane Exotic Axe. Now the next couple of clips are going to show you me taking advantage of Dawn Chorus, which scorches targets. It does take advantage of the heavy cyclone attack. Because it does. Right, there you go. That's without Dawn Chorus. 4,271. Right, that's without. Similar stats. Very similar stats. Heavy attack again. Let's see the damage difference. And you will see that Dawn Chorus does in fact give you a slight edge. That's with no Helions and such. That's more damage. You all saw from the initial clips, you have just learned on how to properly DPS with the Exotic Axe Wolfsbane. And also that certain Scorch exotics can help the axe along its damage journey a little bit. So this video is going to offer a build for Titan, Hunter and Warlock on how to optimize damage with Wolfsbane, right? For every class, I'm giving you family size pack value here with this, and I'm giving you a farm in the portal as well, an A rank farm. I'm giving you a lot in this video, I'm really overcommitting. Reason being is because if I keep posting Titan and Warlock solo farms, Hunters start to get rowdy. Where's my solo farm at? I need a hand. Will you help me? Make a Hunter video, I'm begging you. I want you to cover it because nobody else covers it like you. Please do a Hunter. So I'm showing you how you can do this on Hunter as well. Because we've got to ensure that those Hunters are not wandering the streets after 10 p.m. Because that's going to start happening. They're going to start looking for Shady Ray for some sort of dim link off him, and he won't give him it. And you've got to hand over some unstable cause. He's charging 30k per dim link. I'm charging nothing. My value is at absolute 0, right? The only thing I ask is you subscribe, you like, you share, you hype, you teleport, you exfoliate, and you congratulate. That's all we want. So, getting the base information out of the way, the axe, right? Make sure that you've crafted it and it has honed edge and jagged edge on. You can have these unequipped and have other perks on. Don't worry about that. Make sure these 2 are on, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. But just pop them on. They're already on anyways. I'm just explaining that you need them on. And Attrition Orbs is the catalyst this week. Now, Bungie has time-gated the catalysts like they always do. There's Burning Ambition on there. There's Relentless Strikes. And there is the Healing Catalyst. Now the healing catalyst, I don't know the name of it, but the special healing catalyst will be very useful for GM Grandmaster content -40, -30 deltas. However, it won't be more damage. I doubt that it will be unless you get more nanite bar progress, I guess. So there is that to consider. But Burning Ambition will help out this axe along. We don't know exactly how much it will help it out along though. But I have just proved to you that Scorching from other sources can help out the cyclone of Wolfsbane attacks. Including that with your DPS tricks on how to get more nanite progress on your rotation. Then it's going to help it out along. But I think Attrition Orbs is actually punching way above its weight. And it's probably one of the best catalysts you can have on it. And it's the first week of it. And people are sleeping on it thinking, well, I think Burn Ambition will be better than this. And I'm not sure if it will because Attrition Orbs gives you constant uptime on surges and weapon fonts. Access to weapon fonts and surges increases your DPS. Yeah, so it's incredible. We'll have to see how this goes on and shapes. But as far as now, I can only go with the information we have right now. Make sure you got Attrition Orbs Catalyst on this. This is going to make the difference. It will make the difference between solo one cycle and a boss and not. That's how important it is. You can really build craft with Attrition Orbs. We've said this for a long time now. So you get the nanites. It does stack with Outbreak. It's not worth doing this on a solo basis because you can't run double exotic in a loadout. And if you was to shoot a boss with Outbreak and then swap to Wolfsbane, you would only have 30 sword ammo left. So it wouldn't be worth it. It just wouldn't be worth it to do that. And most activities requires equipment locked anyways. In Portal at least. I'm just explaining there is an Outbreak perfected interaction with nanites because this does nanites. It's a nanite axe. That's exactly what it is. So now that you've had that basic information, remember, it's a sword, not a glaive. It's not coded as a glaive. It's not coded as an axe. It's a sword. Remember that. So, on the 3 builds, the basic information on this is, whenever you're running a Wolfsbane type of build, run as high weapon stat as you can, or strategize it. So, in this case for the Warlock, which I'm going to cover in a minute, but I'm rocking double grenade font and a weapon font. Each font gives you plus 20. It stacks 3 times, 20, 40, 50. That's huge, right? So, for example, in this case, I'm 180 on the weapon stat, but I'm actually nearly 180 on grenade stat because I've got 2 grenade fonts on. I've got super fonts on, but don't worry about that for the purpose of this video. Just that you want close to 200 weapon stat for this. Less, it's not worth running the axe. You need a high weapon stat on this. If you're rocking like 90 weapon stat, you will not pull off what I did in my clips. You won't pull off the same damage. A lot of you, when you're copying my build strats and solo farms, you seem to skip a portion of the video and you end up messing up. And that's on you, that. Because every single word I've mentioned so far has a purpose, apart from a couple of jokes. But apart from that, every single thing I'm saying to you is what you need to know about. So don't be skipping anything at all. If you skip this part, that's your problem. It ain't mine. So make sure that on any axe build at all, you rock a high weapon stat with some fonts. Because you got Attrition Orbs, which means you can artificially increase your weapon stat. That is very important. So getting on to the Warlock. So now we're going to go through the Warlock portion. Right? Then I'll explain the Titan build, then I'll explain the Hunter build, and then the clips will all be jumbled together at the end. So the farm, the Titan clip, and the Hunter clip. So for the Warlock build, you want to run heavy on solar, right? It's better on solar for this. Right, now I'm running Song of Flame, not Dawn Chorus, because you don't want Daybreak, shall we say. We're running Song of Flame for the increased damage for Radiant and stuff. Phoenix Dive, Celestial Fire, Solar Grenade is the hardest hitting solar nade in the game for this. Fusion nades are only good when you're on, Starfire Protocol and stuff. But mainly Solar Nade is melting with Dawn Chorus, right? So you rock Solar Nade. I've tested the damages. Aspects are Helion and Touch of Flame. Helion's going to advance your DPS for this. Fragments are Ember of Solace, Ashes, Torches, and Singeing. Singeing's a big one. It allows you to run a lower class ability stat and still spam your class ability because you're constantly scorching. This goes on. Now, a lot of you are going to say, where's Facet of... what's it called? Ember of... the Cure. The one that cures with your nades. Which one is it, dude? There we go, Ember of Resolve. A lot of you are going to say, why didn't you run Ember of Resolve? And the reason is because we don't really need it. This is nice and it works with Helion, but look at what's the build. The build's tight-knit. 4 fragments, lads. 4 fragments. So Ember of Singeing is needed. Ember of Torches is for Radiant. If you pop that off, you lose Radiant. You can't have that. Ember of Ashes increases the Scorch stacks, which helps the axe along and helps with Dawn Chorus Scorch damage. Ember of Solace will double Radiant time. Do you see now why we can't fit the Cure? Ember of Resolve is for combatant difficulties. It's not for DPS and a boss. Do you understand it, lads? You gotta get with the program on this. Yeah, he's making these schoolboy errors. Run Ember of Resolve. Why? I'm a tank anyways. I don't need it. Not for this. Not for what we're doing. So we pair that with Dawn Chorus, which, as I told you, will help the Cyclone damage along. It will help that out. Yeah, and you're going to get constant Helions to assist with axe damage as you're axing a boss. Now, the argument between Dawn Chorus and Yunoya, I can tell you it. Yunoya does less damage when you are playing up close with a sword, but it will do more damage when you're 20-30 meters away. Long story short, if you're running Helion builds, ask yourself, is your build close quarters or is it long range? If you're running long range, Yunoya does more damage with Helion than what Dawn Chorus does from a distance. He watches your family eat from distance a little bit better. Yunoya does that. Whereas if you CQC, Dawn Chorus is just better than what Yunoya is because it doesn't get the buff. Because you're right, you're within 2 meters of a boss. Yunoya will not proc. You understand it? Yunoya is a long range Helion build. Dawn Chorus is a CQC Helion build, but there are other benefits other than just that. So we've went over stats. So have that grenade stat high and a weapon stat high for this. These two stats are going to help you out massively to increase your DPS overall on a Wolfsbane damage rotation. So there's going to be a dim link for all of this. I did use mint. I did any primary that you want. It doesn't matter. That is the Warlock setup. I will just go quickly over the card. The card that I'm going to show you right now, I done for every single run. So yes, it's Nightmare of Galran, yes, but he's a very good boss to test on. What you need to understand with dungeon layers is none of them are good. None of them are good. Beneath the Necropolis doesn't even have Zolmak. Free Zolmak from his jail. Where is he? He was shown in a trailer and I've been scammed out as not having Zolmak in my life. I've been scammed on that because I would have loved to test the axe on him. This isn't the Zolmak. So, out of the 3 dungeon layers there's 2 bosses. He find he's a floating meatball. How can I axe him? You tell me how I can axe him. I would love to test it on that, but he's a damn silly boss. And he's got too much health as that lad in there. For soloing and stuff, hyphened, he's just too awkward for farms. Warlord's Ruin's no good. You need to farm in a fire team for Warlord's Ruin. It's just not worth it on solo basis. Only if there's a cheese or an exploit is this one worth it. Alright? So that's why we've been farming Nightmare Galran Submerged, because it's so much better than all of the other dungeon layers. And it's 2 completion rewards. This is A rank score. This is the same card I run on every class. 1.447 turns into past 1.6 because we ran it quickly. Make sure that you're slightly over leveled for this to allow for the solo 1 cycle, but you can do it if you're not still. You can still clutch it out. I'm running pressure cooker, equipment locked, no radar, no starting ammo, brawn, extinction. And finally, there was a little boon to help me along, Slayer. Now, if heavyweight comes up at reset today, my strat is going to be fantastic. Or airborne. You're looking for 2 buffs at reset. In actual fact, the entire weekend. If you ever see heavyweight or airborne up on ultimate or GMs and stuff, you pop it on because both of those boons can increase the Wolfsbane the damage significantly, a lot. So can this as well if you wait for Solar Surge, but I didn't run this, right? But we did run Slay. It's a moderate damage boost. That's all it really is. That card you've just seen was the same card for Titan Hunter and Warlock. So long story short now with this, it's just Dawn Chorus with the axe. Enhancing Cyclone damage with some Helion damage to back up that damage to ensure that we solo 1 cycle Galran. That's the Warlock build. On with the next few builds. Titan mains, this is what I recommend when you're Wolfsbane DPSing. Because of how damn good Banner of War is and the buff that you get from it, it's overwhelmingly in your best interest to just run Berserker. You could run Solar Titan and dip into some Solar Fragments to buff Wolfsbane up, but you would end up losing Banner of War, and I don't think that's a good thing. So overwhelmingly the best choice, in my opinion, for Wolfsbane on a Titan damaging a boss is Berserker because of Banner of War, right? So what have we got on? I mean, it really doesn't matter. We're using Grapple. I mean, we always do. Banner of War into the fray because that gives me Woven Mail. I'm just using a stock Berserker Strand Titan. There's no real... there's nothing really special about it, right? Thread of Fury, Thread of Transmutation, Thread of Warding, Thread of Generation. This is just your standard stock Berserker Titan, right? But the main thing that's going to help you out with the axe is Banner of War. That's the big one. Yeah. So weapons-wise, again, any primary that you like. If Bronze on, use Hail Clip. Yeah, and we always use Mint in these runs just because it's incredibly powerful. Bait and Switch or Elemental Honing, depending on what you want. It doesn't matter either way because we're going to kill the boss mainly with the axe, of course. Now, I just rock Synthoceps. If you want to run Wishful Ignorance with Fletchered Storm, I'm not against you doing that either. It's really up to you, but you can rock Synthoceps. And I have been for a bit. Stat-wise, isn't as bad as what it is on a Warlock because Banner of War will give you so much sword damage that your weapon stat doesn't need to be as high, but still rock a highish weapon stat with some fonts on and some solar weapon surges because you get that from Attrition Orbs. So just rock a couple of fonts and surges with a highish moderate weapon stat and you will easily kill this boss with Berserker on Wolfsbane. And there are other ways of doing it as well, but this is all about Wolfsbane, this. But like I said, you could do it with Solar Titan, but I think it's not as worth as what it is with Berserker, right? Because Banner of War. That's the setup for Titan anyways. Hunter mains. Here is a build for DPS and with Wolfsbane. Now the Hunter, in my opinion, is the worst class to sword a boss on solo. It's overwhelmingly worse. I mean, let's review it right. Song of Flame Warlock gives automatic Radiant, and Song of Flame is so OP, and you can DPS weapons freely. Titan has Banner of War, and it's also got Solar Titan, which is very high uptime on Radiant and stuff. So with the Hunter, you haven't got a lot of options to DPS very well with Wolfsbane. See, in my opinion, now hear me out on this, Triton Vice improves damage for glyphs and all sorts of other bonuses. This would make a massive difference if Hunters just said, if this exotic Triton Vice just said, increases glyph and sword. This should be a sword and a glyph exotic, right? Because the Hunter's lacking for sword damage, so you've really got to improvise. And the solution that I come up with is, well, then run Fortracer. You've got Fortracer, and I think that's going to be the way to go. The only thing, Wolfsbane's a solar weapon, right? So with Fortracer, it's not just a case of you pop it on and you get the buff. You've got to work around that by doing matching elemental affinity. So we need to do solar damage. And we know that Solar Hunter, I mean, there are some changes and there's some things I need to visit about it. But in terms of us DPS and a boss, we need to go Prismatic Hunter still. We still need to do that. So we need to dip on more damage. If you're going to try and solo one cycle Garan with Hunter, you need more damage. We need more cowbell. That's what we need. So Fortracer will offer you ×4 weapon surge. You want to run as high weapon stat as you can, close to 200. And you need to supplement with some backup solar weapon surges if your Fortracer runs out. Because when Fortracer runs out, you go down to ×2 weapon surge. So you've still got a surge going on in the background just in case. A weapon font will give us 200 weapon stat in this case. Right? And then we can run some other stuff. Now, I didn't have everything on. It didn't matter really for the run. I mean, I'm missing some stuff here, but it's all right. Overwhelmingly, though, you need a high weapon stat to pull this off, right? It's not the easiest thing, but you want to add debuff. Now, that is at least one thing that the Hunter can do reliably. Is add a debuff to all your buffs. So you run Tether in this case, in my opinion, and we just ran a gambler's dodge so that I can get my knives back. I am using Knife Trick to proc the Fortracer. That's why I've got it on. I know that Knife Trick is not as good as Freddy's Spike and what have you. And I could debuff via Snare Bomb as well. Yeah, so there is options for you to do that. But if I put Snare Bomb on, I will then lose Fortracer's ×4 weapon surge. So we can strategize this. We can instead run a Void Grenade and debuff with Facet of Dominance. So do you see what I've done here? I've got a debuff nade and I've got my Knife Trick for stacking with Fortracer to get the Wolfsbane damage. See all these workarounds I'm having to do for the Hunter? This is why the Hunter is the worst class on Sordon. This is why he's the worst. He is the worst. And look at all this extra work I'm having to do just to pull this off. Gunpowder Gamble will also proc the damn Fortracer buff. I'm using Ascension. Ascension has a unique interaction with the Wolfsbane nanites. Just thought I'd mention it. Everything else I've got on. Facet of Ruin, Protection, Hope, Dawn for Radiant, and Dominance will work with this. And that's essentially what we run. There's other ways that you could have done this. You know, there's more ways to cut a cake than one. You can have 8 slices or 4. There's many ways of doing this. This is just my workaround for Hunters if you want to do it. You would be better off just doing grapple melee. We know that. But this video is intended to be talking about Wolfsbane and how to use it, at least on every single class in the game. And that's what it's about. So that's the Hunter setup. You'll see the clips coming up. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so Titans up first. Let's show you how to solo one cycle Garan with Wolfsbane. On the final phase, you're going to whip out the axe and kill all the nightmares to build up Banner of War. The full run will be showcased on the Warlock. This is just showing you how to DPS the boss on Titan, and there'll be a DPS clip for Hunter as well. Build up your Banner of War. So look, we've got Banner of War. We've got Unstable Essence, which is a damage bonus. Make sure that you've got that from the nightmares. Then you're going to activate the axe to 2 light swings, 1 heavy. 2 light swings, 1 heavy. Look at the melt. Look at the chunk. Swap before Nanite Assault ends. You then get half of your bar filled already, and then you're going to rinse and repeat. Look, Banner of War, though, he's losing. We are losing Banner of War. We've still got the damage buff. We are chunking this boy. We're absolutely chunking him. So I would say with Wolfsbane, the best build to run across all 3 characters is probably on Banner of War. It does the most damage, I would say, because Banner of War is just that handy to have. But when you lose Banner of War, you do lose a hell of a lot of damage. Look at my chunks. They're not as much. We're not chunking as much. I finished the boss off with a super, which you could do in a run, right? That would be an A rank reward as well on Duality for Titans. So that's how you can solo farm on Titan. Like I say, the full run will be showcased on a Warlock run, but you can fill in the gaps, right? So the next clip is going to be revolving around Hunter. As I said near the beginning of the video, with Hunter we're going with a Fortracer build with a high weapon stat, right? So we do that. We get to the boss. We're going to tether. Then we're going to use our nade for the boost, the Gunpowder Gamble. Then we go in with the axe. Same DPS techniques. Now look at the chunks. We're doing it all right, but we're not doing what Titan did. Yeah, then when we throw a debuffed magnetic grenade, although we should have saved that little bit because we've already tethered, I suppose. But we got our nano. It's hard to manage your nanite assault plus your abilities like this, whereas it was much easier on the Titan and Warlock. We pop a Transcendence here. We've got 30 seconds left though, look, and the boss is nearly dead, right? It's just I didn't fully optimize the back end of damage, but we basically kill him, right? So it's more than doable, right? Especially with the solar boost ×4. So at least on this class, you're getting access to more surges, but you haven't got like Banner of War to buff the axe, and you haven't got like a Song of Flame, you know. But it is doable. It's tight. It is tight, but that's how Hunters are. But it's still showing you that it's possible. There you are, Hunters. There's a clip for you. And it is A rank rewards as well. So, I mean, I've showed you a build for every single class here on how to DPS with Wolfsbane. Just add debuffs and high weapon start with Fortracer. That's really the short version of what this is. And it is possible. It's doable. Okay, and finally we're going to round out the video with the full clear, this being the Warlock run. I didn't want to do a full clear for Titan Hunter Warlock on the video, like to include that, because it would make the video too long. The video is already too long right now, but regard this video as a mega video for Wolfsbane information. DPS tricks, what to use on all classes. It's more of a all-round complete video. If you've watched this entire video, then you are now a specialist with this exotic axe. You know pretty much everything that you need to know worth knowing about it. Yeah? Using the DPS tricks with the nanite swapping. Remember though, if you do the 4 cyclone rotation, you are going to not have infinite ammo, whereas if you just do 1 heavy attack then swap, you will, but that's less DPS. We are concerned with DPS. We have a minute to damage Garan. You don't have infinite amount of time. There's not many bosses in Destiny 2 that relies on total damage. Don't you understand? There's not many, which I think that's where Bungie goes wrong. All of their encounter designs nowadays is DPS, 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 like based on short windows, whereas I prefer fights that rely on total damage. Let me give you an example of that. Vesper's Host. Vesper's Host is a very long damage window, and it's 2 phases in one. Now, what exotic shined in that one when it launched, everybody? Do you remember? Grand Overture. Why? Because Grand Overture is the king of total damage. Although in the raid race, the final boss did rely on total damage and people did use Grand Overture. I know that people used other exotics, but you get what I'm saying. So what I'm trying to explain is you're not concerned with total damage, you're concerned with DPS, and the way to DPS with the sword is to do 3 or 4 cyclones during nano assault, then swap off to get the half nano assault bar back. Now, on with the actual farm, you just need to kill 2 scions in the Nightmare Realm. I've covered this at length, so I'm going to assume that you know the mechanics by now. You should do, because how many videos have I made on this? But it is for good reason, because Garan's a good testing place for weapons, and it's good for farms. It's good for Pinnacle Op farm, and it's the best Pinnacle Op farm and solo that there is. It's the most consistent. Yeah, I know it's the same thing, but don't penalise me for the portal being lackluster on content. I'm not in control of that, am I? What are you going to do, farm Luminality? No, I ain't farming no Luminality. I'm not farming no Onslaught. Although Onslaught, I will do an Onslaught video. That'll be coming up, I don't know what day, but I'll have an Onslaught solo video at some point. But you get what I'm saying, right? So, we're just going through the motions here. We use a mint. Now, you want to build up your Nano Assault and have it prepped. That needs to be prepped before DPS, of course, right? If it's not prepped, you've lost all your damage and you probably won't solo 1 cycle. So, it stands to reason that you would prep your buffs. But remember, because of the attrition orbs on the catalyst, you're gonna dive into solo weapon surges and super weapon fonts, grenade fonts to really up your Helion damage, your axe damage, and you're gonna have Radiant with Song of Flame. You're gonna have a damn OP solar nade with Dawn Chorus scorching him. So this is why this is great. I do think Titan is better than Warlock for Wolfsbane though, because of Banner of War, as I've already said previously, and with Hunter being dead last, because there's just no good sword exotics for Hunter, and it's an easy fix. Just buff Triton Vice. I've said this. Buff Triton Vice so that it works with swords and glaives. Boom. That's the solution. And there you go. There we go. Then Hunters have got something to think about. But if they ever do buff it, it won't be until after Renegades and stuff. But I think I'm the only one that suggested that anyways, so they probably aren't even thinking about it. DPS. So we go with DPS, we go with a melee and a solar nade. Now the boss, actually, I have bad RNG on him, but I still melt him. So we're doing the trick I showed you at the start of the video with the Nano Assault. 3 or 4 cyclones, then you swap off. You can swap to a bit of Retrograde if you want. And then keep refreshing Helion when it runs out and refresh Radiant when Song of Flame goes. You're going to bully him in a wall. The best thing to do with him is bully him. Don't let him bully you. He will try to bully you and melee you about. Best practice, get him on a wall and melee him like this, look. Sorry, axe him. Yeah, and it's comfortable, right? It's comfortable to do this. You just need a little bit of buildcraft and revolving around it. I think the axe needs a slight buff, because I am stacking a lot of things to make this work. But I reckon if this axe got a 20% buff next week, say they buffed it by 20%, this axe would be pretty viable. But it's whether they do that or not, right? But you can use it. This video's went through everything that you want to know or need to know about the axe. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.